It's a difficult time down here right now. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's just really disappointing. I can't believe that we're struggling so much. You know, we haven't struggled this much all year. Really, we've had some bad races this year where we thought we were struggling, but this is just taking it all, taking the cake. Everyone's in amazement really on why the car's so bad, but we haven't been able to make an improvement on it since we rolled it out of the truck on Friday. So it's more just disappointment. I mean, I think we didn't have a chance really against the speed that Marcus has got this weekend, but it would have been nice to have been able to have a reasonable finish to the year, but so far it's been pretty gloomy.
How hard is it for you from a body language point of view to bounce back today in that fight for second?
Well, you know, it's not looking too good. The warm-up was not positive. We're, I think, 28th or something in the warm-up this morning, and that was doing the best we could. So we've unfortunately, as I say, not made any improvement whatsoever. So, you know, for all the fans that were hoping for a bit of a fight, you know, sorry, but we haven't been able to make it happen. Let's
draw a positive out of this. It's been a remarkable back half of the year for you. At Oran Park, you'd written off your championship chances. You're here now. You came here with a chance of winning it. How much does that give you, you know, extra motivation for 2004?
Well, yes and no. I mean, unfortunately, we're going to finish on a very low, so which is we're all scratching our heads. So it's difficult to say. We're definitely not going to get carried away with talking about 2004 because you know, that'd be very, very foolish of us to start doing that. There's obviously a lot of work to do. We desperately need some testing and to have any chance of you know, putting on a good show next year. I mean, we're starting unfortunately at the end of this weekend with a lot to do. Hoping, you know, going into this weekend we were going to have a positive approach to the start of the season, but unfortunately, you know, it's starting off not that good.
We know you're a fighter. Get in there and play hardball today.
Oh, well, we'll do our best. Do our best.
Thanks, Murph.
Thanks.
This man here had an incredible fight yesterday. Mark Scaife, all the way after that stop-go, up to 8th. What do you hope to achieve today at the most?
Well, you're probably looking for a bit of divine intervention, Darryl, aren't we? You know, we're looking for a blue Ford with a number 4 on it to not finish. But I mean, it's one of those things. You know, all we can do is go and do our best. Starting 8th, you'd like to think we can finish up the front there somewhere. But again, who knows what happens with the rest of the guys in terms of reliability. So
I know you're focused on just that number 1 position, but the second position's alive as well today.
Yeah, look, it is, and I mean, it's not much in us right now, and we've got to just make sure that, you know, I was really disappointed with the start yesterday because, I mean, if I've made that mistake, then that's a really dumb error, and if we can just now consolidate, get our head down and bum up and do a real good professional job, I'd be happy with whatever the outcome is. I mean, luckily, I mean, who would have thought we were going to not finish at the Queensland 500, for instance, or Queensland 300? So, who knows? You know, in terms of car reliability, what really goes on? Don't really know.
You've endured a difficult season in many ways. Has that got Mark Scaife's fire in his belly burning that much more for next season? You know, what are the plans? You've been the top man on top of the pedestal, and you could lose that.
Yeah, look, I'm more determined than ever. I mean, right now we've got the 2 latest cars. Our speed's been fantastic. 2 red cars on the front row of the grid yesterday, and leading into 04, we'll be into it. It'll be on for young and old. It'll be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mark.
The cars are gritting up for the VIP Pet Foods main event here at Eastern Creek. Some are only just leaving the pits. They'll be around taking their positions very soon. There's been some late news, though, from the pits, Grant.
Yeah, the big news is for Greg Murphy that really things are going from bad to worse. Obviously, he didn't have a good day yesterday. He's gone out this morning, a very frustrating session in the car. Then during some of the promotional drives, he pulled the handbrake on and he's done his back quite badly. Now, spent some time with him after that session and before now, just trying to understand what was wrong. He's had 2 physio sessions and worked a little bit on stretching. He's been into the car. The guys have put some inserts into the seat to try and relieve some of the pressure off his back, and they've also strapped his back to try and help him be able to just sit in the car. And in most situations, it's not too bad. And he's coming in so that the situation is basically this. He's having trouble with gear shifts, 3rd down to 2nd, and just pain sitting in the seat. The plan is that he's going to do a couple of these laps, drive through now, see how it is. Now, just before he went out on the last one, when they threw his race tyres on, I give him the thumbs up, thumbs down. He just looked over and shook his head. So at this stage of the game, still not sure whether Greg Murphy will start the race.
Well, she does a fair bit of roving for Rove. She's also done a fair bit of driving too at the top level. Corinne Grant's Eastern Creek, not so Greg Murphy. What a terrible weekend it's been for him. We've just had word that he has had to pull out of this race. And there is a trick to that, because it does in fact advantage him in one way, because now that this becomes his worst round, he does collect 114 points, which was the previous worst round that he had to drop. That's a little complicated for you, but if we see Marcus Ambrose pulling back out, we'll take a break. We'll come back with more on your home of motorsport for this final round of the V8 Supercar Championship.
Big crowd here at Sydney's Eastern Creek for the VIP Pet Foods main event has just been informed seconds ago of the breaking news that we just told you about on your home of motorsport. Some last-second drama for the last race of the season. There will be one very significant man missing from the grid, and it's this man. Greg Murphy, in championship contention, has officially withdrawn from the final race at 2003. You could see him just crawl out of the Kmart Commodore there with a very sore back. As Grant Kenny mentioned to us, they were always planning to send him out just to see how it could feel, whether he'd be able to complete 250 kilometres, and the answer is no. Now, what does that do for the championship picture? Billy Woods alluded to it, and Bill's dead right. It actually helps Greg Murphy in terms of the point score. He's going to finish this round with more points, courtesy of pulling out. It's a bizarre situation, I know, but we know one thing for sure, and if you're keeping count at home, you can pencil in Greg Murphy for 2003 with 1,983 points. He would have had to have finished around 5th or better than that today to get towards that total for 2003. Greg Rust, what have you got?
Matty, just down here on the grid with Stephen Richards. It's a damn sight hotter than when we were here earlier in the year, wasn't it?
You're not wrong. The old driver comfort level's at an all-time high, that's for sure.
What's that going to be like for 250 Ks?
It's going to be hard work, let me tell you. I mean, we'll be in the car for, you know, up to 2 hours, so maybe a little bit more than that. So definitely, it's going to be hard work.
You said to me just prior to our chat now that you've made some gains this weekend. It's been a bit of a battle. Just talk us through that and how you've made the gains.
Yeah, basically, you know, the Castrol Commodore started a little bit off the pace at the start of the weekend, and we've just been progressively trying to make it a little bit better and a little bit better, and it's fast enough now, but we've just got to get a car that hangs onto the rear tyres for a little bit longer, and you know, we could be winning the shot. 250 Ks is a long way, Richo. Hey, 2.5 hours away from now is a long time, so anything can happen.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks a lot.
Well, Craig Lowndes looking very relaxed at the moment, but I guess it all turns to business pretty soon.
Well, it does, Grant. It's the last race of the year. We always want to do well. We want to win it because everyone remembers the last race, not the first one. So, look, we want to do well. We've got a battle on our hands ourselves. Steve Richards is 11 points behind me. Jason Bright's 11 points in front of me for 5th position. So 5th, 6th and 7th are still up for grabs. So lot to be gained in this race.
Now, you're right alongside an old teammate and sparring partner in Mark Scaife. He's just come over and had a word. Tell us what he said.
Yeah, he just said that he doesn't want to get involved with the first corner or the first lap incidents. We want to make sure that we get through the first lap, then we sort ourselves out, then we go racing, and no different to when we used to race together. So look, he's true to his word, and I'll make sure that we give each other room on the first couple of corners.
Yeah, there is a lot at stake, as you say, for both teams. Some are right up the front, but all the way through there are a lot of battles going on. 250k, it's very hot, and temperatures, you know, talking about something in the order of 55 degrees in the cabin. How do you prepare for that?
Well, it's something, I guess, it's like a match fitness. You do it all year, so you do get used to it. We go to Northern Territory, which is pretty hot up there. Adelaide, the street circuits, Indy. So a lot of those circuits do prepare yourself as a body. But we've got a bit of cloud cover at the moment, which will be a good thing. It will get hot, and it'll come down to the fittest driver. So look, it's everyone's in the same boat. Some people have got cool suits, some people have got drinking water. I've got my little drink bottle, and that's about my little mate that I've got in this car.
All the best.
Thank you.
Jason Bright, have you got the speed today to beat this blue Ford here beside you?
Well, we made a couple of changes since yesterday. You know, they probably weren't conclusive in the warm-up that we were going to be quicker, but you know, we've probably gone for a little bit of gamble because I don't think we did have the pace yesterday to beat Marcus, and I'm not out here to finish second, that's for sure. So we made a couple of changes for the race today, and you know, we'll see how it pans out.
how much of an issue is tyres going to be? You've had 3 sets for the weekend. You're starting the race on the best ones from yesterday's race?
Well, no, we're not starting this race on the best ones. Sorry, we're starting the race on the best ones from yesterday's race, yeah. You know, we've got a better set for the end of the race. It is going to be an issue. It's always an issue with these rockets, and you know, we just need to try and manage our tyres better than anyone else, and that's what usually wins races in this category.
Have a good one, mate.
Thank you.
And I've also got some further news. As if this thing couldn't get any more dramatic, David Krause has also withdrawn, so 2 drivers out of this final race of the year.
I've just run up about 20 flights of stairs to the commentary position. I can tell you it is very, very hot out there. I do not envy the drivers this afternoon. There are thunderstorms predicted, and in fact some thick cloud building around Eastern Creek. Not sure when that is expected to hit the circuit, if at all, during the course of the race meeting. There they are. Quite solid banks of clouds there. You can see out over the Blue Mountains. But right here, in the centre of this cauldron, it is in fact that hot. And there is the Harker getting ready to form. And there are plenty of Kiwi drivers left in this race, even though Greg Murphy will not be one of them. Yes, our apologies for that. We were unaware that there was a minute's silence to take place following that blessing from Gary Coleman. Neil, Marcus Ambrose would not be thinking in any way about what could go wrong today. Any great sportsman only thinks of the positive.
Yeah, he'll no doubt just be trying to focus on the things that he's done thousands of times before now, just making sure that he gets on with the job that he knows so well, which is good quality, high quality motor racing, preparing himself properly on the warm-up lap, making sure the car is correctly adjusted in the brake bias, in the anti-roll bars, making sure the tyres are warm, making sure that the brakes have had the right amount of temperature cycled into them, thinking through and rehearsing in his mind perhaps his starting protocol, and then just getting on with the job. He did it perfectly yesterday, and so he's just got to try and emulate that today.
It's funny, isn't it? You wander up and down pit lane almost every single minute that we're out there, and we bump into these guys left, right and centre, and it becomes a bit of a throwaway line, but we obviously genuinely mean it. You always say, well, good luck, mate. The amount of times I've had Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy and Mark Scaife, obviously this weekend, say, don't need luck. I need to do the job that I'm here to do.
And it changes quickly. We said that at the opening of the program, and we saw yesterday, you can look at the practice form.
Well, my marker doesn't work anymore for the pit lane, for the marks. Have I been moved, or we've got too far away to start? You've rolled down the hill a little bit, mate, while we were waiting there.
Marcus Ambrose just
chatting with Paul Forgy there, trying to find out exactly where he's meant to be. Well, thankfully this...
put little marks on the wall generally just to make sure that they've got themselves perfectly aligned, to not give it away a millimetre at the start.
Well, the interesting thing there is, see right down the end of the main straight, to the very right of your screen is where Stone Brothers Racing's garage is, right down there, right down the very end. They're second last, in fact. And, you know, that just gives you a visual of exactly how far away the start line is. So it's not one of these circuits where you can just send a member of the crew up to stand right in line with your driver to tell him where to start. They use little markers here at Sydney's Eastern Creek. Let's run through the starting grid for race 2. The final event of the main event. Ambrose and Bright on the front row of the grid. Todd Kelly and Russell Ingall. The boxes on the right-hand side of the screen indicate where they qualified for race 1. And obviously where they're starting race 2 is where they finished that first race. So Stephen Richards out of position 5. Max Wilson saving his best for last for 2003. Craig Lowndes 7th on the grid. That's where Mark Scaife is. Position number 8. Was really an incredible save yesterday after being shuffled right down to the rear of the field courtesy of a drive-through penalty. Morris Barguana, McConville and Bow take us down to position number 12. Paul Radisich at Team Better Electrical 13th. Jamie Wingcup at GRM 14th. Jason Richards 15th. Dean Canto 16th. 21, car 21 is number 17, position 17 for Bradley Jones. There's Glenn Seaton. This weekend marks his 175th championship start. Mark Larkham, this is his 102nd and final full-time championship start. On that page there, you'll see the name Greg Murphy. Delete it from the books, folks. He's being cancelled out of this race with a bad back injury. Murph will not start the final race of the season. That puts him out of contention, however remotely mathematical it was, of claiming the 2003 title. Rick Kelly from 26, Anthony Tratt from position number 28. We can also tell you that David Kraus there in position 31 will not be starting this race. Simon Wills from the rear of the grid.
I wonder whether it was Murph's physio or his statistician that made the call. It's actually better to be out of this motor race in terms of his point score, which to me throws up a question mark about the way in which the points are scored in this year's championship, and much has been made of that, but he's actually better off, unless he could be in the first three, he's better off where he is in the truck, in the air conditioning, in terms of his points gathering for this championship. These are the onboards today. Mark Scaife, Russell Ingall. We've got the race covered from every angle. Rusty's looking forward to his race. Had a yarn to him just after the warm-up this morning.
We've had 7 races of 250 kilometres or more distance for single drivers this season, and Marcus Ambrose has clearly been the pick. He's got the form guide. He's won 4 out of the 7 races, also qualified very well. Only missed out at the front row once before this one, so 250 Ks to go.
In that warm-up this morning, Mark Scaife was the fastest man by quite a margin, and the form that he showed yesterday to come through from the back of the field, as you mentioned before, Matty, was pretty impressive. It's a shame in many respects that we didn't get that shootout between the two top guns, Ambrose and Scaife, in yesterday's race. It may still come today, you never know. The 2 compulsory pit stops are an issue. The heat is genuinely an issue. It is seriously hot out there, and this is a very physical track. They will notice this in another hour or two.
The world is about to change in the order of V8 Supercars. Here we go, the build-up to the VIP Pet Foods main event. The crowd get to their feet. And right now, at this moment, there are no more second chances in the championship. Marcus Ambrose, a good one. Russell Ingall, more importantly, is going to sneak up and protect his teammate. He gets through to turn 1 and puts the pressure instantly on Jason Bright. For Stone Brothers Racing, that's as good as it gets from the word go.
Well, how good's that? And look at the jump from Marcus. If ever he needed to make a crack start, then this was it. Bit of nonsense at the back of the field. That's Mark Noske run wide at turn 2. They were 3 wide down there as usual. But Marcus has delivered the next key element in stitching up a championship, which is the perfect start. Clean air now. That instantly makes his life easier on the tyres. He can choose when and how he regulates this motor race, and that's the most significant thing.
They've broken this weekend down into certain parts. Part 1, qualify well. Part 2, let's keep our nose clean in the race. Well, that went perfectly to plan. Part 3 would have been a good start, and there is the little bonus. The bonus comes from Russell Ingall. Boy, hasn't he done a terrific team job over the last couple of rounds in the championship. When he started to slide out of the picture, it all became about Marcus Ambrose and getting him to the line. He's there helping contact between Max Wilson and car 65, Paul Radicic. Nothing too disastrous out of that, but they certainly hit side by side. Settling out the order throughout lap 1 of 64. The pit window opens. The completion of lap 2, it closes at lap 48. Marcus Ambrose will get an almighty roar as he comes down. Only 1 lap. If that's what the Ford guys wanted to see, that's how you make sure that nobody can pinch a championship from under your nose. This is the Rat Max getting a little bit friendly.
1.3 second margin between Ambrose and Ingall on the out lap. The standing lap's an impressive time from Marcus at 1 minute 40.4. His teammate Russell Ingall at 1 minute 41.8. They were the only 2 in the 40s and 41s. Everybody thereafter 42s and beyond. It is staggering to look back. You've only got to look back as far as 10th position, and the standing lap time is some 5 seconds slower because of the traffic impact in the opening lap.
Well, of all the starts we've seen this weekend, Marcus's yesterday was a boomer. This one's a corker from his teammate.
That's a 0 to 100 Ks, which is typically the way the teams measure a good start, in very good time. Just the right amount of wheel spin to launch it, and then good traction. And that propelled Russell right into the ideal spot to protect Marcus from this angry pack. But you know what? No one's even close to being near his pace at the moment. They've smartened that car up again, I think, even since yesterday's race, and perhaps even since the warm-up this morning, because it's quick.
If that's the case, mate, if they've smartened that up to that extent, these guys are just holding on for the ride. What a ride it's going to be. What an amazing finish to the season.
35.3 the first flying lap for Ambrose, 35.8 for Ingle, 5.9 for Bright, 6.4 Kelly, 6.3 Richards, 6.3 Lowndes, 6.3 Scaife. So again, Ambrose in the first flying lap with a good margin, 1.8 seconds when they crossed the finish line. Greg.
Neil, Team Dynamics entry. Simon Wills was an early retirement yesterday with that bent steering. They've got him back out there today, but he's doing all the hard yards from the rear of the grid already. He's complaining of understeer. Oscar Fiorinotto's been on the radio and told him to try and use those anti-roll bars to dial some of it out right now.
Looking at Lowndes here in turn 5 with Scaife behind him. Stephen Richards is our cameraman. And on the way through 6 and 7 here, see that little switchback that takes you to 7, the left-hander, third gear corner. And this little mid-pack battle, it's not even mid-pack battle, it's the next lot after the leaders, and there's a whole bunch of them there. There's a lot at stake here. You heard before when Craig was discussing the fact that it's only a handful of points between various guys to argue over some of the minors, but they all count. They all equal pride and money, not necessarily in that order.
Richards and Lowndes again find themselves at war with each other. 5th and 6th. Ambrose goes down and completes another lap.
35 flat for Ambrose, 5.5 for Ingle, 5.7 for Bright.
2.3 second gap between Ambrose and Ingle. Add another second and a bit between Ambrose and Bright.
I've just been out the back to catch up with the latest on Greg Murphy, and I can tell you that he is lying flat on his back in his jocks in the truck, pretty much unable to move. So at the moment, things not looking great for Greg Murphy. Interestingly, it's more than just this particular race and this year's championship that they're sort of concerned about here, and that is when the guys were putting him into the car and he was trying to get leaving into the car just to see whether or not he would start, they were talking about conserving his back for future seasons. They're commenting that a lot of races end up with bad backs indefinitely, and they don't want to put him in that situation from here.
An interesting point there down here, Neil. I know as a driver you're committed into turn 1, but at the moment these dark clouds loom over the distance here in the background. And interesting enough, track temperature here today is already down 5 degrees on yesterday. It's 42 right now, and as these clouds come over, it may drop even more.
And you know, Darryl, the worst bloke in the world to ask about the weather here is Scaife, because when we raced here in May, he played weatherman, and it's been a bit of a standing joke at Holden Racing Team since then that whatever you do, don't let MS near a weather prediction. Well, if the rain does come, or there's a sprinkle, then that'll scramble things up. But I don't know that any of it's going to hurt Marcus at the moment. He's just done a 34.9. He's taken his margin out to 2.9 seconds over Russell Ingle. He's just skipping away on this first set of tyres. And one always assumes that the second set you go to will be the better set. Maybe he's gone the other way around with this to build a lead and consolidate and then go on to a slightly scruffier set. Remembering this weekend, 12 tyres allocated, 3 sets to use in the shootout. Incidentally, Rick Kelly has come in now. The compulsory pit stop window is open. And that'll be for tyres. Fuel requirement around here is about 2.4, 2.5 litres a lap. Depends who you talk to on their fuel burn. And you need about 150, 160 odd litres of fuel to do this race. So you can't get through on the 120 litres that's carried in the tanks of these cars. Oh, they've got a bit of damage on this car. Rusty.
Neil, it wasn't a scheduled stop. I spoke to Rob Crawford a moment ago. Rick Kelly shaking his head. There is some damage, as you mentioned, to the front right, and I think that has hurt that front right tyre. And Rick Kelly was complaining about it as he came down pit lane. So this is not the point in the race where they wanted to complete their first of their compulsory stops.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. It's very early. You can see that there hasn't exactly been a rush to get in there. because nobody wants to stress their tyres any more than they have to, or carry an unusual fuel load any earlier than they have to.
Here's the other man to watch today, Mark Scaife. He's gained 1 spot from his starting position. He's in 7th. There's your PlayStation 2 race score. Marcus Ambrose pulling further and further away. And as he does that, his teammate becomes the cork in the bottle, which is all plus win-win situation for Stone Brothers Racing. Craig Lowndes moved up 1 position from the start. Mark Scaife has moved up 1 and Cameron McConville has moved up 2. So the main event is underway.
Early pit stop with Aussie Mail Racing. You can see it is vacant down there in pit lane at the moment. Grant County.
Yeah, talking to the Aussie Mail guys and understanding that the stress is going to put on tyres, the boys say that JB was just simply frustrated in the train being held up, and they basically decided to take a roll of the dice, get him in, get him out of sequence and some clean air so that he can race hard and then hope the tyres last.
Well, there's a big advantage in being out of the pack. If you're stitched into the middle of it, Grant, as you know, then it just completely ruins your rhythm. You can't sight your braking markers. You can't get on the gas as early as you want. It just changes everything. And you're sitting there in hot air. It's uncomfortable to drive in. It's hard on your car. The question mark in all that is now the ask that they put on that set of tyres, given that we're only 7 or 8 laps into a 64-lap race. That's going to be a huge job. Sometimes, though, you're able to, when you're on your own, you can stroke the car a little nicer than when you're having to use it up in order to fend from someone else or try and stay in the train.
Looks like a really good team drive at the moment. Marcus Ambrose has almost a 5-second lead. Matty, there's only hundredths in it, but Engel appears to be giving him about half a second a lap. Now, I don't know if that's intentional or not, or maybe he's just naturally slower than his teammate, or I don't know.
4.9 seconds is the margin at the moment between them. So, and Marcus just on his last lap has done his quickest lap of the race, but the fastest lap of the race. Did I spit all that out correctly? Here comes Lowndesy down the inside. Does he get the job done? Oh, a little touch, and round goes Stephen Richards at turn 4.
They've been scrapping for lap after lap after lap, and Lowndesy's had a couple of looks down that inside. We'd have to see the replay of that dissected properly, but, well, we just saw exactly what happened to Richo.
I was about to say the fastest lap of the race so far has actually been Rick Kelly when he went back out on his own. He's done a 34.8. Marcus done a 34.9, and he just did it on the last lap, so he's still showing good pace. Bowie, though, speaking about fresh air, just nailed a 34.1 on that set of tyres. Here's the replay from Lowndesy. Down the inside at 4. Did he get up far enough? Oh, it's hard to tell from that angle. Maybe not. Hard to say. That'll be one that race control has a good long hard look at. It's a difficult angle again here. We don't know how far up the side of the car it is. From that angle it looks like he could be far enough up. You never know. That's one for the driving standards observer and the stewards and the race director to have a long hard look at. And of course when you're travelling at gazillion miles an hour, where it's difficult to sometimes work out precisely the millimetres. Greg.
Castrol crew are already making a beeline, I think, Neil, for the judges at fact here in pit lane to express their concern about this incident. Stevens' engineer's already been on the radio saying just get back into a rhythm, just do what you can. Everybody also keeping their eye on the skies. The word a few moments ago from Marcus Ambrose's engineer Paul Forkey was, don't worry about it, Marcus, we understand the wind has changed direction and it might be blowing those showers away from the circuit.
Now Stevens popped back into the equation at 14th after the turnaround at turn 4. And no doubt that those pictures as Cito comes in for his compulsory tyre stop will be replayed several times over in race control while they just determine a judgment.
We're going into the garage.
Yeah, we've got a problem.
Okay, Glenn, talk us through it.
Go, Jags. See if we can hear Glenn.
Yeah, won't go. Won't run. It clears sometimes, then breaks into massive breakdown all the time. So what else can I do?
No worries, I just couldn't hear you probably on the track.
So it's gone off song. It's running on 6 or 7 cylinders. And this is the engine from ProDrive in the UK. And it's been a frustrating season for Glenn in terms of engines. There's been a few issues. Was on for a reasonably solid result. He qualified very well this weekend. He's our race leader. Margin now 5.7 seconds. Last lap of 35 flat. His best lap of 34.9. So that shows how consistent he is as we look at him through turn 2. Todd Kelly, meanwhile, coming into the pit lane. 5.7 seconds, Ambrose to Ingle. Another 3 back to Bright. Another 4.8 back to Lowndes. Scaife is 5th. Morris, McConville, Wilson, Radisich and Whincup in the top 10.
You mentioned Cito's qualifier. That was the best qualifying performance of the year. He finished 8th in our full field shootout. And he was on target for a good result this weekend. We understand that Todd Kelly is actually going straight into the garage.
A couple of high-profile cars out early. Kelly out and Seaton out. And also diving under the bonnet. So we know that Glenn's is intermittently breaking down onto either 6 or 7 cylinders. And it looked like Darryl just in the corner there, just trying to get a handle on what's going on at the bottom of that, so we might try and find out when we can, but they won't be too keen to talk about it for a little while. Billy?
Well, this in fact now clears Marcus Ambrose. It clears the way for him. If he is now classified in this event, if he goes the distance that he needs, I think it's 32 laps to be classified in this event, there are enough cars out of the field now for him to take the necessary points. So step one again, as you were saying, Matty, another step taken towards that title for Marcus Ambrose.
Russell Ingall, his 95th championship start this weekend. Debuted here in 1996 in a Commodore. Now he's holding up the team end of the bargain for Stone Brothers Racing in the BA Falcon. 4th in the championship at the moment. He's been runner-up 3 times in his career, 98, 99 and 2001. Hasn't all been smooth road and plain sailing for Russell Ingall at Ford for 2003, but I tell you what, he's given it one heck of a shake, and when it's come down to the crunch, in terms of the championship crunch, he's been there when it's counted for his teammate in the last couple of rounds. The Enforcer, 2nd on the road. Over at HRT, Todd Kelly is off the road. What's happening, Darryl?
Yeah, just a quick update on that car, guys. It's cracked a power steering mount. Robbie Starr come in and give me the information on that. Todd's out of the car at the moment, but they're frantically working under the bonnet to try and get it back on the racetrack, and he's getting in now to strap back in.
Oh, can you imagine trying to do this race here without power steering on these cars? They're quite heavy enough to steer even with it. When that had failed around here, trying to face up to 250 Ks with all the negative camber and all the caster that they have in the front geometry on these things, you need to be Superman to steer it.
Paul Morris has got in front of Mark Scaife here, so Morris has gone up to 5th position and Scaife has dropped back to 6th just in the last lap.
Graham Brown, our statistician, pointed out a couple of laps ago that Morris was turning very good lap speed. Grant?
Yeah, Glenn, frustrations. What's the problem at this stage?
We don't know. It's dropped some cylinders, so they dropped it on the first couple of laps, or actually on the first lap, so they're just trying to find if it's a mapping issue or what it is.
And to complicate things or make matters worse, it's a damn hot day and you've got problems with the cool suit.
Yeah, I'm just about to get out of it, I think, because it won't work.
All right, mate, good luck. Hope they get it fixed for you.
Ask him about those Top Gun sunglasses, yeah. With your GK.
He looks like a dodgy used car salesman with those on, doesn't he? I haven't seen those on for a while.
That or a wannabe fighter pilot.
He's qualifying. I've got to stay on the fucking road.
Now, Mark Scaife, boiling point.
Mate, we're obviously going to have to speak our strategy now. Probably tyres may be the better option early.
Robbie Starr there on the radio talking to Mark Scaife and examining strategy and what to do right now. A number of teams, Cameron McConville and Brad Jones, have just taken fuel stops, guys. So that's the first of the fuel stops that we're seeing so far in this race. The Castrol team still battling with the officials over that incident with Craig Lowndes. We're told at this stage there will be no further action. They may look at it, though, after the race. And what might come into play here for the first time are the new approved onboard camera system that every car in this race is carrying. They are logging every ounce of vision out the front of this car onto a disc drive unit, so the officials can replay it back after the race and look at some of these incidents. So maybe those new Tiga onboard cameras, Neil, will come into effect for the first time.
Yes, it's a good point that you raised, Greg. All the cars have now got them. This is something that's been discussed over a very long period of time, an innovation that many competitors and teams have been hoping to get for a long time. Is Scaife being passed by Paul Morris, and I don't reckon that Scaife's car's looking too strong at the moment on that set of tyres. And we heard a glimpse of the conversation before with Robbie Starr talking about the possibility of actually altering their strategy now. But Talking also about the cool suit, you heard Glenn before, they often ice up if you put too much ice in the system at the start of your sequence. So here's the order at the moment on the PlayStation 2 race score. And it's Marcus Ambrose with a 6.7 second margin over Russell Ingall and Jason Bright. Lap 14 of 64 at the VIP main event at Eastern Creek.
Stephen Johnson pit stop. This is a fuel stop. As you can see, it's going in. And a pretty smooth one too for the Shell Helix Racing team on the way up for 2004, where the word is this weekend, Matthew White, among many other rumours, of course, that the driver lineup will stay the same. There's been some interesting stuff floating around, but some strong denials as well. Just before you comment on that, Ambrose leaders nearly 8 seconds now, 7.7.
Always good fun, isn't it? The end of the season, the silly season, and away we go. It hasn't really been too chaotic down there, but there's lots of, you know, rumours. And
the best part about it for some blokes is that if you use it properly, you can jack your income up the next year. So and that's hard of what's going on out there.
You'd never do that, Neil.
Of course not. Drivers never think like that.
You mentioned, just before we get to Jason Brightwood, you mentioned Max Wilson. I mean, there's been all these theories going around that Max is going to go to Japan and race the GTs over there, but courtesy of Race Facts and Tony Whitlock, we thank you for this. He's quoted Max this morning saying, "Why does everyone keep talking about me? I'm staying here." So it's all news to Max Wilson. There is a little bit of rumour mongering going on about Jason Bright and maybe a drive at 888 Racing. Maybe. You never know. But we'll all find that out in the wash. But this guy's had a pretty good weekend, Jason Bright. He's got it all together right at the very end of the season. And remember, we mentioned it yesterday, he was the championship leader for 7 consecutive rounds in 2003. He was rewarded for one thing: consistency.
Interesting things occurring here. We're hearing reports of lightning off in the distance. There is a bit of a cloud cover now. You see the track's not bathed in sunshine, and we've got a pretty substantial reduction in fuel weight in the cars now with 18 laps down. So you'll actually start to see, and there's that weather I spoke about. That's looking directly west past Australia's Wonderland out towards the Blue Mountains. Bathurst just over the hill. And there's a bit of rubber starting to appear on race line down there as well, so you'll see a bit of speed bob up here and there from a few cars, particularly when they go onto their next set of tyres. Greg.
Craig Lowndes, young engineer, Des Conway has already been on the radio to him. They've said just keep an eye on Paul Morris behind you. They're concerned about Morris's progress in the Cirame Commodore and how strong that car seems to be coming onto this point. Lowndes' response was, "I'm concerned about the rear tyres. I want to look after these rears." And what he's done, Neil, in response is put both the anti-roll bars on full soft, trying to nurse that car right now.
Stephen Richards has got by Jason Bargwanna in the last lap and a half. They were tightly bunched up, Canto, Bargwanna and Richards, and Richards did a nice switch on Bargs at turn 2 and got back position number 10.
Third place man Jason Bright is going to pit for fuel on this lap. So he's running an interesting strategy.
Before Brighty does that, let's just check exactly where he is in terms of on the road versus Marcus Ambrose. Ambrose has an 8.26 second lead over Ingall, and then Bright's another 4 seconds back. So Ambrose has a 13 second lead over the guy in third place, Jason Bright. Stephen Richards started today from position number 5. Ended up having a spin around after contact with Craig Lowndes, went all the way back, and now he's up into position number 9 again.
Russell Ingall's come into the pits as well. It's not just Bridie who we're seeing at the moment.
Wait. Go, 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 go.
And there's the enforcer, Daryl Beattie.
Yeah, I'm down here with this pit stop, taking quite a while, a fair bit of fuel going on board. Russell gets away well, but interesting, I think a lot of these teams have changed their strategy now for fuel first. With those dark clouds on the horizon, they're like, do the fuel, then if it rains later, we only have to come in the once for wets.
That's right. I think you've got to be mindful of the weather, and many of them have got direct internet weather updates in their bunker. Some people have clearly decided to run their better tyres in the opening stint and deal with the fuel. They've had the burn of the first 19 or 20 laps and then topped it up, so they've now got the 120 litres required to get to the checkered flag, and then they'll do their tyres a little bit later after some of the fuel weight burns down, and then they'll be pretty speedy at the end, theoretically, Greg.
Well, I'm with Greg Murphy. You've gotten to your feet. You're having some real difficulty sitting. You're about to leave the track. Just tell us the severity of the injury.
Yeah, I've done it once before, mate, and it wasn't car racing, it was jet skiing, and I pulled on the handbrake when I was out doing the VB challenge thing before, and I twisted and I felt my disc pop straight out, and it's pinched the sciatic nerve, and I got in the car, but I could feel that it was radiating down my legs. I left foot brake. Every time I put my foot pressure on the brake pedal, I could feel it twinging and moving. So unfortunately, it's better if I don't try and do any more damage to it. I would assume, and 250 k's around here wasn't going to help it. Our timing couldn't be more impeccable, I suppose. But you know, it's I feel for the guys. They've been working their butts off. We haven't had a good car all weekend, and you know, we were probably going to try and do a bit of testing out there in that race just to see if we can improve it, because we've got to be back here in about 5 months' time. But it's just going to, I think it's going to do too much damage.
Obviously, your call was made after consultation with 2 physios as well.
Yeah, we had a physio look at it before, and he basically said, listen, you know, you can have a go, but you know, you could do some more damage to it, and there was nothing really he could do in the short term. Probably any manipulation was going to make it worse.
Get some rest, move. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
And just in that pit stop, we saw an adjustment being made to Lowndes' car. I'd suggest it was the roll centre adjustment. I don't know whether they've got one of the remote adjusters up in the window of their car, but he was saying through Greg before, if you recall, on the radio, that he had a concern over the rear tyres, so they may well have just actually made an adjustment to try and calm that car down. Marcus Ambrose, meanwhile, our race leader, is coming in for his compulsory stop, and Daryl Beattie will be lurking in the vicinity when he arrives there.
He lurks very well. Meanwhile, Greg Murphy will leave the track and leave behind a season 2003 that had 3 pole positions, 2 victories, 6 podiums, and definitely a top 3 finish in the championship. Here is the Devil Racer. Daz?
Yeah, guys, same thing as Russell Ingall, just for fuel. Interesting enough, there's been no roll centre adjustments to either of these cars with just the fuel going on board. Neil, I did have a wander around Marcus's other wheels here as he gets away. Very good pit stop, and had a look at the tyres. Looks like a couple of them have been roaded or heat cycled, and the others look like they've done a few miles from the race yesterday.
Well, their cars, both of them, are obviously performing beautifully, and they're well balanced around this track, so you know, they've no need to make any mid-race corrections or adjustments on the car to try and get more out of it, because they're basically doing the business.
I don't want to make it too dramatic here, but this is the last round. And Neil, when you and I were up at the Gold Coast calling the Champ Car race, we had Bruno Junqueira leading that race, a race that he needed to win to stay in the championship. But when the first pit stop round came through, he was back in the middle of the pack, and that is where trouble struck. And of course, that knocked him effectively out of the championship race. What I'm suggesting here is that Marcus Ambrose is now in a vulnerable position. He had that clear track ahead of him. Russell was protecting his back, but now, of course, he's come back into the meat of the field. So if anything can go wrong, it may well go wrong here.
Yeah, but he's going to be wise enough to not engage anybody. And Matthew made a good point before. He had a 12.5-second margin when you forget about his teammate. Russell's no threat. It was 12.5 seconds to this bloke. And he can afford to actually have some slow laps, be patient if he picks people off, if indeed he needs to. And eventually what will happen, Billy, is they'll all peel away in front of him and they'll just give him the universe. So it'll all just... it'll all look good in the not-too-distant future.
And we've also talked about in the break, Woodsy, you said to me, isn't this bizarre? Marcus Ambrose has become Mark Skaife. Everything's falling his way, if you want to put it that way. Well, I could also tell you, to factor into that, Woodsy, this field is strung out all over this 3.93 kilometre circuit, so there effectively isn't too many traffic jams out there for Marcus to get caught up in anyway. Here is Mark Skaife coming in, and Daryl Beattie is right down the end of pit lane, waiting to see this stop.
Everything fine here. As normal, the crew cleaned the windscreen. On the entry to pit lane, actually, it was interesting. He had a big lock-up. It looked like maybe the right front as he entered that zone to bring it back to 40 kilometres an hour. Good pit stop. And he just beats Radicic out of pit lane.
I think he got the hint. Go. Skaife.
No ambiguity in that message.
No. Rejoins, and there's some traffic for you. Max Wilson and Cameron McConville.
Actually, Cameron just did him a little service then and saw him, recognised the other car and made a bit of space for him. And Skaife's now right with his best friend from New Zealand.
Our TV1 viewers throughout New Zealand are watching this race live this afternoon. Welcome to you. We hope you're enjoying the final round of the V8 Supercar Championship. Thanks for looking after us in Pukekohe. And we'll see you all again next year, but you'll be watching with us.
It was a great event, wasn't it? Another huge turnout, and the Kiwis were on fire, and so was their bloke. Unfortunately, it's just such a shame that Greg had a tough weekend with his car this weekend. Didn't really find a happy setup. Now he's got an injury, and he's just out of the game. But I think there's still a lot of positives for the Kmart crew and for Murphy this season. You know, in the mid-season, by his own admission, nothing to do with our view of it, he thought that he was a goner. So to actually be vying for the championship at the end was still a pretty fair achievement, with a vehicle switch mid-season from VX to VY, totally different configuration front suspension, and when they first got the car it was a bit of a puzzle. They've had some very good race meetings with it. This just hasn't been one of them.
And you know what, Cromley, I was just scanning Greg Murphy's entire results sheet for 2003, and if things are going to go pear-shaped at the end, at least he can look back to 2 awesome moments, well, 3 in fact. Pole position at Bathurst victory, and New Zealand home victory once again. So it's been a good season for 2003 for Greg Murphy, but right now this season is heading towards a bonanza for the Blue Eyes.
Well, we said hang on to your hats, don't discount anything. And they were just on the call to Marcus Ambrose from the pits. Turn one, because this is what happened at turn 1. Whether there's some oil on the track, we're not sure. Stephen Johnson's parked. So is Stephen Ellery, by the look of it, in the super cheap car. There was a rabbit running past those 3 prone vehicles, would you believe?
I'd run out of the way too if I was a rabbit. Some people reckon I am. It's going to prompt a heap of pit stops now. Yeah, here they all come, including Marcus Ambrose. This one is significant, and I suggest it might have been the Shell car that was the problem down at Darrell.
Yeah, Neil, great stop for Marcus Ambrose. The wheels, it looks like he's going to beat Dumbrell out, and that was all in the favour of Jeff Gretsch. He said, you guys can go straight through our wheels here, go through, and that got him out in front of Dumbrell.
I just noticed that, Daz, and that's, gee, that's terrific to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great sportsmanship when it's this close as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. That really was. And HRT opened the doors and let Marcus go through. And here is Mark Scaife comes through. What have we got, like 16 cars in pit lane or something?
It's very tight down there. Very, very tight.
Go.
What's that, Jeff?
And Dean Canto comes in as well. This is when these guys in pit lane really earn their cash, and while we're in a little bit of a reflective mood for 2003, we congratulate these guys in pit lane. The professionalism of the crews up and down the lane just continues to soar, and it's quite a sight to see those guys in action. They're working harder and harder than ever before, and they're so responsible for what happens in the championship these days. They're such a vital part.
Well, it's just extraordinary the amount of effort that goes into fine-tuning the equipment, the guns, the handling of the wheels.
Hang on a sec. So this is what happens. So Stephen Johnson goes in first, rear end first at turn 1. Big time speed you're carrying through there, and Paul Wheel follows, and whoa! So who was that? That was Ellery.
Yeah. So there must have been oil there. And look, nobody behind him even looked like turning left, so there must have been a little spray of oil down there. And that's Steve Ellery in there. Great. How good was the gravel trap then?
Hey, watch the bunny rabbit. Watch this. Just down to the left.
There he goes. What's up, Doc? He said.
You idiot.
There's plenty of rubber there, but they haven't located the oil yet.
Well,
so this is lap 26.
Something was there, because people don't just fire off at that corner for fun.
Can't imagine it.
On lap 32, mathematically we can say that Marcus Ambrose has the championship, because he only has to complete half race distance, then he can be classified, and he'll pick up enough points to make it a done deal. Of course, he will want to go further and further and further than that, and nothing's official until it's all said and done. And the Audi safety car is leading the way at the moment as they try and get rid of 3 cars out of turn 1. Here's Mark Larkham coming in. Darryl, what have you got for us?
Yeah, there was a lot of action down here, Matty, and one of the first incidents obviously was Stephen Johnson. When that car went past me at the end of pit lane here, the engine note completely changed. All the drivers, like Neil said, fired straight off in that oil. The last one that just made it through was Baird, and he looked like he was out of shape as well. Also in the pit stops, when Stephen Richards went to pull out, he made contact with Jason Bargwanna, so we've got to watch on that. But the man that may have lost out on this altogether has been Russell Ingall. Now that all these cars have bunched up and made stops, they've wheeled his wheels back inside. We'll wait and see.
So they didn't bring him in by the sound of it. So, yeah, he might end up in further back than fullback when this all cleanses. After he takes his stops and the field's bunched up, we put him virtually at the back. The interesting thing here is we've not yet made half race distance, so that means that tyres that are going on now have got to do an awful lot of racing. But is there a question mark regarding the weather?
Full course yellow in the final round, the final race of the V8 Supercar Championship right now. Marcus Ambrose is in great shape. He need go no faster than the safety car to pretty much have this in the bag. And on track, Russell Ingall leads the race, but he's yet to make his second stop. This is what lurks in the background. Scary thought.
Doesn't look very nice, does it?
I reckon there'll be a few fellas out there that are just quietly saying, oh, thank goodness for that, because the air will have, the temperature will have dropped out there now without the sun beating on the track, and that it will at least make the physical task of getting through to the end of this race a bit easier. I mean, that was really seriously going to be a tough afternoon if we had the sort of conditions that we had yesterday, where the place was bathed in sunshine. It was very, very hot. It was always predicted that it was going to be thundery in the late afternoon.
You might sort of be sitting at home thinking, well, you know, get this thing going again, please. And while that all sounds very easy to us, you've just got to imagine how difficult it is to get rid of those cars out of the gravel trap, which has done exactly what it's designed to do down there. The problem is that once they get in there very, very deep. And Stephen Ellery's Super Cheap Auto car number 31 is now, well, a bag of marbles. Effectively, they've pulled it out, but it's just chock full of rocks. So it takes a bit of time. We're used to that. The drivers are used to that. Funnily enough, under safety car conditions, when you analyse what's going on in the driver's body and the sensors and all that kind of stuff, that's actually when they really start to get under the most stress, because it's hot in there. It gets very frustrating for them. The heart rate starts to pick up and they just want to get back down to business.
Final racing action on your home of motorsport this year will be trackside Sunday, December 7 from 3. And there is some stunning racing action, I can promise you, in that particular program. So stick around for that if you still haven't had your full fix for 2003, the Carrera Cup, the Aussie cars. There's been some great action in those this weekend. Very much enjoyed them.
John Bowers' pit stop, you know, that one that he took early, I think he's done both stops. It's probably going to prove to be okay for him now, because the weather, if it does change, I think it will, is going to actually put him back in the game.
He's done both.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. We talked a lot earlier in the program, and it was right to do so because there was a lot of talk about it in the pits, and that is that the team factor with Commodore versus Falcon out there, and how there would be effectively some ganging up going on in the circuit. But there have been some quite good moments, apart from the incident just a little while ago in the pits with Jeff Grech letting Ambrose lead the pits comfortably. Then the other incident was Jason Richards allowing a clean pass by Marcus Ambrose in the race itself, which being a Commodore driver was a nice gesture. He didn't have to do that, but of course it was good sportsmanship. There's been a lot of it today. And it was Russell Ingall, of course, in pit lane that was allowed through by the Holden Racing team.
It was Marcus.
It was Marcus.
Yeah, I was writing you a note saying we go down to Russell. Need to talk to Rusty in pit lane, as in Greg Rust. Greg,
just down here with Ian Warburn. What's the status on Steve's car? It's obviously out. How does it feel? What's the latest?
The problem we've got is the radios have gone down. Steve can hear me. I can't hear him. It's full of sand. We're trying to get him to come in because the engine's really going to suffer. It was really buried in the sand, so he's staying out there by the looks of it, so we'll see.
Did he describe that wild ride at all to you?
No, he didn't, but all we saw on the TV, it looks like Stevie Johnson lost an engine and Paul Wheel and us went in on the oil. That's all we know.
Thanks, Molly.
Okay.
So car number 31 is now the mobile Eastern Creek Beach.
There'd be a massive amount of rocks from gravel trap all buried up in the back of the brake ducting there, and also
Might have been something, well, if we're going to keep racing, Steve, whatever sand we've got in anything's in it now, so come in and get tyres, mate.
Grant Kenny.
Nigel Paul's car has a great turn of speed, sitting second on the track at the moment, but you've got to make another pit stop.
Yeah, we got caught out with that one. Our strategy was looking good with the first stop, come in, do fuel, get out, and the guys went off at the same time. So it has hurt us. We're going to pray for rain because then obviously it'll get us back on an even keel. So, but car speed fantastic, and he's driving very good. He's real happy with it at the start there, quicker than Scaife obviously, and passed him easy. So carrying on the form we had everywhere but the shootout.
And yesterday he went from something like, you know, in the late 20s right up till the early teens. It was a great drive yesterday.
Yeah, the car was very consistent, whether it was on full tanks or on low tanks. Tyres, when they got old, you know, it didn't go off too hard. So we sort of hit quite a good note here, but we missed it on the real important shootout bit.
We'll leave you to do the rain dance then.
Well, we'll get the boys to do another harker or something for us.
If that works.
Thanks, mate.
Restart this lap, we understand. Don't forget our coverage of the V8 Supercar Gala Awards dinner around about 11:05 on Monday night, but please check your guides. All the goings-on from the awards night. See them all spruiked up in their penguin suits and crown a few new champions. So Marcus Ambrose is effectively just a handful of laps away from making sure that mathematically the championship is his. He has to complete 50% of race distance to be classified, and he's just 3 odd laps away from doing that. Wouldn't that have been a bizarre situation had he won it under safety car circumstances? So the Audi safety car pulls away and lets the field have another crack for the final time of 2003. Big crowd in the grandstand here in Sydney. Big build-up to this main event, and it's had it all.
Nervous time for everybody here because the tyres have cooled out, tyre pressures have gone down, the cars don't behave now like they did 10 minutes ago. And not only that, there's some sort of debris down at turn 1. Morris leaves room for Ambrose, which was very sporting.
And Russell Ingall is next on the road. Remember, Russell hasn't done both pit stops. Pit window closes on lap 48, but lap 32 is the marker point for Stone Brothers Racing. I was down there talking to Russell and Marcus this morning, and Ross Stone, the Stone Brothers are normally pretty...
Wasn't he a cat on a hot tin roof this morning?
Gee, it was funny. I've never seen a guy sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up so many times in such a short period of time, but he was nervous. There's no question about it, and it means so much to these guys. They've worked so hard. Everybody has, but...
He's off to the PRI show in Indianapolis this week. A lot of people from the trade here will head over there. There's a huge trade show in Indy where the world's motorsport technology groups and parts suppliers all gather. It's one of the single biggest trade events in the US. It was originally in Columbus, Ohio. It's now at Indianapolis, and it's even outgrown its venue there. And they have something, I can't remember the precise figures, but in the region of 40 or 50,000 people turn up, and they're all, you've got to be in the motor racing trade to attend. It gives you an idea of the depth of the industry around the world, and you name it, you can buy it there. So they're off, and Marcus just sneaks down the inside. Ross is off with a couple of the key guys from the team with a shopping bag, and just to have a bit of a sniff around and see what's around next year to see whether they can make these things any quicker.
And this guy, Marcus, went over there for a short visit throughout the year to go and check out the NASCAR scene and had an absolute ball. You've seen that story on RPM. Look at this. Kid in a candy store. Oh, Scaife and Lowndes get together.
Trouble.
Paul Dumbrell says, I'm not getting part of that. Look at Lounsey. Rear hanging out all over the place. The former teammates get together.
Canto was overlapping at the start, so he's going to take a drive-through penalty. You've got to stay less than 5 metres behind the car in front of you, and you must be single file when you greet the starter at the control line. Here's a replay. Mark has a look up the inside. He couldn't get it done, though. Craig was down the inside of Dumbrell, and there was contact, and then everybody's in the marbles. When you're out on the outside of the road there at turn 4, it's always ugly. It did sort itself out.
Now this is a very, very important part of the 2003 V8 Supercar Championship. Half race distance will tick over when Marcus Ambrose crosses the control line. Still a lot of racing to go, but this will be good enough to ensure that the Devil Racer is the man for 2003, mathematically. Not official yet, and they're not jumping out of their skin just yet at Stone Brothers Racing, but I can tell you that that will be a huge sigh of relief. That was the first marker that they wanted to get to today. Make sure he's classified.
35.9 that lap for Marcus, even with the traffic interruption with Simon Wills there. So he's still got good pace.
Well, Scaife was muscling his way through there previously. As we see Bridie fighting hard as well for track position on Ingle.
That's a good dive, and he gets Ingle. Now, there's a bit of confusion going on at Team Dynamic with Simon Wills. They're saying that he should have been waved past the safety car.
Yeah, normally the safety car picks up the leader, and that question was raised a couple of laps ago, why he was at the head of the queue. Don't know the answer to that one. That's one for race control.
But Marcus Ambrose has the corrected race lead again. And look at Scaife. He's pouncing over everybody at any opportunity. Now it's John Bowe in the firing line.
It probably looks a bit bizarre at home when you see cars just this close, but it's quite natural when you're right under the back of another car like that. You can maintain your pace and your rhythm, and you just know that the guy in front's not mucking around. Every now and again they make a mistake and you might give them a little touch-up, but you can drive very confidently, very close to other competitors in this field.
Well, he's giving himself every possible chance in this race, and obviously Scaife wants to finish the season as effectively as possible with his highest profile, but there's nothing he can do now. Now that Ambrose has completed those 32 laps, there's nothing Scaife can do, but at least he can get on the podium and show everyone just how close this championship really was.
Well, CL up the inside here of John. No, not quite.
There's some experience in that little tussle between Mark Scaife and John Bowe.
A lot of kilometres there.
Around about 320 championship starts between them. Not to mention the championships between them. Mark Scaife today will hand over the championship title at the end of this day to Marcus Ambrose. What a ride it's been for Scaife. What a year it's been for Holden Racing Team. So many of these guys have just had unusual years. We've talked about the point score pretty much ad nauseum, and we know how amazing it's made all this situation at the end of the year, but then you throw in the factors like, and there goes Max on the inside of Craig Lowndes, you throw in the factors like the ownership issue, the testing issue, the BA Falcon, the VY Commodore. It's all come together in 2003. Darryl Beattie.
I'm down here with Ross Stone. Ross, I know you can never celebrate until the checkered flag's out, but mathematically Marcus has basically got the championship.
Yeah, it's sort of it's a funny feeling actually, because the race is not finished. I guess all we've got to do here is just keep our head down and really try and see if we can get this one across the line.
Russell didn't get in that pace car situation. Obviously, the only thing that'll really save him now would be some rain.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. He missed a call. One of our radios went down, and so he was left out high and dry, if you like. So we've got to try and recover the best we can. We're holding off now in case of rain, but it's looking less and less likely all the time now.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Oscar, there's confusion over the situation with the safety car there, and Simon, can you try and explain your take on it?
Well, at this stage, we'd obviously pitted twice, and we
feel that they picked up the wrong car. Now, unfortunately, we were stuck behind the pace car as we exited the pits, and we believe Ingles should have been the leader. Unfortunately for us, we were caught out, and subsequent to that, we've gone a lap down. Now, we'll be taking that up after the race.
Yeah, the significance of that is that you did then become a lap down.
Yeah, unfortunately so, yeah. So it's one of those things, I guess. They believe they got the right car, we don't, and I guess we'll have to have a look at it later and go through it with them.
Time will tell.
Thank you.
Is that the Red Barrett accidentally landed in pit lane, Billy? Or a Russian cosmonaut? What's Oscar wearing? I need to talk to him about his fashion sense.
He might have picked it up at the trade show in Indianapolis.
I'd see if I could get a refund. 32 degrees ambient temperature, and 37 degrees is the track temp at the moment, so it has come down. But Ross Stone just made an interesting comment that he didn't think that there was any likelihood of the rain actually making it now. Max Wilson's got good speed, and he's showing it here on the inside of Bow. That's a good spot for position for 6th.
He's got a fair amount of aggression going on too, Max. So too is Russell Ingall, as expected, the enforcer, giving it everything he's got. The PlayStation 2 race score, Marcus Ambrose, Jason Bright, Ingall, Morris, Scape and Bow.
We're back at Eastern Creek, and Jason Richards and Mark Larkham touch. And Jason Richards spins out off the circuit backwards. He'll gather it up, and he'll lose a lot of track position there. And then we see down the main straight here, Paul Morris. He went over in front of Scafey there, but then Scafey's able to draw alongside. Does he get past as they roar down the straight? Morris is proving a bit of a handful for Scafey earlier in the race, which was not a friendly thing for a fellow Commodore driver, but in the end, Scafey does get past. Now, Marcus Ambrose put in 2 consecutive lap records, Neil, a couple of laps back, fresh tyres. And
yeah, not lap records, fastest laps of the race. Yeah, 33.9's the quickest he's done so far in excellent conditions. I think Mark Scafe's second set of tyres were the better of the 2 sets, and so he's now back on track. He's in 4th, and he's threatening to move to 3rd. He's breathing on Russell Ingall at the moment, and of course Russell's still to do that second stop that you heard Ross Stone talking about before, and that consolidates Mark Scafe's opportunity to finish 2nd in this championship. That's what he needed to do, to be in the first 4, and obviously here's that battle now. Gregory.
Well, Neil, we know there's enormous amount of interest in this final round of the championship at home here in Australia, but we've got a lot of international interest as well. Derek Warwick, ex-Formula 1 driver, is here. Another ex-F1 and ex-Champ Car driver is here as well. Alex Young, how are you?
Good, thanks. Good to be here.
You had a test with the Lansvale racing team earlier in the year. Will we maybe see you in a V8 Supercar in 2004?
Yeah, I mean, no, the championship's really good. It's very competitive, very professional, and yeah, Lansvale gave me a go earlier on in the year. And they're not bad cars to drive, you know, good fun. So yeah, I would like to be here next year. We'll see what happens.
It sounds like it may not be the only option for you though, Alex.
Well, yeah, I mean, Champ Cars is also an option for me next year. I'm really looking at Champ Cars and V8s for next year. F1's also a small possibility, but I'm not really concentrating on that at the moment. But as I said, the V8 Championship is a really strong championship, and, you know, it'd be really good to be out here.
I'll let you get back to spectating. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Gee, Mark Scafe had a real lunge at Russell Ingall into turn 9 that lap. He tried to dart out and just blindside him for a moment underneath his mirrors, and that would be a risky move at this point, because I can only assume that he knows that Russell's still to take another stop. Remembering the Stone brothers are holding on in case there's going to be weather interrupt this race meeting, and then they can just go on to wets, which becomes the compulsory stop. But Scafey's now flicked the lights on. You can see the reflection in the back of the Ford. There's still a bit of weather lurking here. I don't know that I'd write it off just at the moment. That's not very far away. It's quite still out there at the moment, I think, from what I can see with the flags and things about it. I don't think there's actually a lot of breeze.
If anything, probably it's sort of more an easterly wind, and that